Well, it's been a while since I've heard Praise is Rising being put into a service, so that's why I've also got it here. But it's also the fact that we're waiting on the Lord. Praise is rising as we wait upon the Lord. And that's something that you get from the passage from Isaiah. The fact that they were waiting, the people were waiting for their Messiah to come. But what I want to do is look a little bit more at the passage from Matthew. And although we may have heard this passage multiple times before, it does have a few interesting little bits and pieces in it that you may have not picked up on. So we'll start with the first one. This is where Jesus brought the disciples, Caesarea Philippi. Now, that place I actually visited last time I was over on a pilgrimage, and it has this great temple that was built honoring Caesar. But it was also a place where there was historical temples built for the many different gods that were known throughout the ancient world. And this is the place that they believe the god Pan originated from. But another interesting fact is there's two rivers that feed into the river Jordan at its top end that flows down through all of Israel. Now, to be honest, I really do believe that when Jesus brought his disciples to this place, they knew these facts. So what an interesting place to come across with the question, who do the people say the Son of Man is? Now, I hope you might be able to picture this all in your mind, with Jesus there, the disciples standing around, and him asking this very interesting question. Who do the people say the Son of Man is? I can almost imagine them looking at each other, trying to figure out what Jesus wants as an answer. But they come up with the ones that we know of, where they list off the prophets of old. But is Jesus just another rabbi or just another prophet? No. He is a man that is there telling them, the people, about what is to come. What will happen when they believe, and they truly believe. He is there showing the people, showing the disciples, what it actually means to be in a right relationship with God. And that's very different from the prophets of old. So he asked the question again. Who do you say I am? Well, I can also imagine them all standing around pausing. And this is where humanity comes into play with the disciples. Although it may not be written there, you can almost imagine a slight pause again. And I want you to think about how this would have been for yourself. Go back to the days when you may have been in school, or your boss at the job was asking you a question, and they asked it again and again because they were not getting the right answer from you. Or can you imagine doing that with your kids, your grandkids? Now, normally, we'd probably be asking when they've been a bit naughty. But you ask the question because you want to get that right answer. And you can feel these disciples trying to figure that out themselves as well. How are they going to give that right answer to Jesus? But then you have Simon, great Simon Peter, who all of a sudden answers the question. And in that answer is a revelation we all know to be the truth. Jesus is the one they have all been waiting for. And as I say, Jesus was different from the disciples from the prophets of old, because he wasn't just going out and declaring the message that God had put into his heart and into his mind, but he was taking that step further with them. Well, I think it's just a little bit more than just a single step. I think he was trying to get them to take a bit of a leap with him. Jesus was more than just a person telling God's message. He was a great storyteller. We know that. We have all these parables. We know he was a fantastic teacher. He was also a healer. He was a miracle worker. He was and is the Son of God. And it is only by knowing God through the faith that Simon had, he was able to give this answer. He was able to speak out while the others remained quiet. He was there to tell the people what they needed to hear, but they just weren't ready to. But that small glimmer of faith that Simon Peter had, to give an answer that no one else was wanting to give. And look at the reward he was given for that. The reward he was given was to become a foundation to the building up of what the church would become. What it is for us to even be here today. But that small glimmer of hope. Now, was that small glimmer there because it was God telling him what he needed to say? Or was that something within Simon's heart? We just don't know. The experts kind of believe that it is the faith that Simon had that caused this to be the answer. And I believe Jesus saw the faith as well as what was in his heart to be correct and true. Now, this foundation that Simon Peter was to become, it is also what I believe to be the same foundational rock that Isaiah speaks of. The rock from which Abraham and Sarah were formed. When people in that day went into the quarries, and even later on in life, went into the quarries, no two rocks were the same, but they came out of the same place. They could be molded, they could be shaped, but they were never the same. They had a uniqueness about themselves. And this is the same for Abraham and Sarah. There was a bit of uniqueness about them, just like there's uniqueness between all of us today. But the one fact is, they were the foundation, the cornerstone, so to speak. They were the foundation to what would become the nation of Israel. Their child that they waited so long to have would grow up and become the father to so many. The two of this couple, these two people, became the foundational rock upon which thousands upon thousands of Israelites lived. They had faith. Sometimes a little questioning, but they still had faith. Simon also had faith. A faith that is the exact same as what ours is today. Are we so different from those people of Israel? Are we so different from Simon Peter and the other disciples? Are we not just journeying in our life, learning about God through Jesus and his relationship with him, giving us that demonstration of what it means to be in that right relationship? Now, how many times had the Israelites had cried out for their new Messiah, not knowing when or where that person would come? And that passage in Isaiah comes at the time when they were in heartache and desperation. They were slaves once more. But we also heard within that passage a promise made. A promise made for those that seek out the spiritual things within their life to satisfy their inner spirit. The promise to come that required faith by the ones listening at that time. But they did not know if that promise would be fulfilled during their lifetime or not. But that faith that they had provided hope. And it is our faith today that can still provide hope to us, a hope within ourselves. So are we so different from those of the past? Do we not also have a faith that brings hope? Do we not have a faith, a hope that in fact one day we'll be able to meet up again within a building and have services like we used to? Or as close as we can. Do we have a faith, a hope, that one day this virus will be contained and controlled? These are just two things that I can think of right away that tells us that we can have faith. We just don't know when they're going to happen. We have no idea of when the final outcome will be. So my message to you today is to keep hold of your hope. Keep hold of your faith and be like all those that we have read about. Faith is our foundation, our rock that we build our lives upon. So let us build each other up. Let's build ourselves up and all those around us. Faith and hope are with us today, tomorrow, and all the days to come. Amen.